2 years ago, my brother and I set out on a journey to rate every single Pokémon in the franchise, which at that point was only up through Generation 8. The goalpost may have shifted a bit thanks to Scarlet and Violet, but now the end is slowly appearing on the horizon. We'll be taking a second look at the Paldean Pokémon very soon, but before then, it's time to take a look at the last full generation we've yet to cover, including the new Pokémon from Sword, Shield, and Legends Arceus.
With 2 full games and a DLC campaign to cover, there's quite a lot of creatures to discuss in this video. The most of any video to date, actually, even beating out Gens 1 and 5. The new Pokémon reach from the temperate hills of the British Isles to the warm plains of ancient Japan, but the question is, which of them reigns supreme? As always, that's what we're going to discover, so let's get to the ratings.
There are plenty of monkey and ape Pokemon already, and although Grookey doesn't do much to stand out besides some nice colors, I like it quite a bit.
Grookey's actually pretty alright. I know I've been a tad critical of the overly cute starter Pokemon before, but I kinda like it for this one.
Look at this grumpy little gremlin. Thwacky is funny to me, but while I get what they were going for, it doesn't do much.
Loses me a decent amount here. Not bad, but not great either.
I kinda wish that they really leaned into the drum aspect of Rillaboom in its normal design. I understand that they were saving it for the Gigantamax form, but it makes his normal form look a bit too generic.
It's a cool idea, but just not really my thing. But again, not bad.
Not that I really had any interest in playing Gen 8, but seeing the starters for the first time around Sword and Shield's release, Scorbunny would have absolutely been my starter. And still would, if I actually find it in me to pick the games up.
My choice of starter when I played Sword, but I don't think I'm a real fan of the primarily white body or the nose bandage thing.
Not sure why its name is Raboot, considering the clothing it spawned, but I guess Ramask and Rapants aren't great names. Still though, I really like this design.
Not a big fan of this one either. There's a bit much going on for a middle evolution for me.
Oh, you know I would rock that Fire Rabbit football, Mon. Come on, Cinderace absolutely rules, although I do wonder where the sneaky clothing of Raboot went.
The blue adds some nice accents to the color, sure, but a pretty generic design otherwise. I also just don't really care for football, as a sport.
Uh-oh, the generic cute spheres have infested the starters again.
I was on Team Sobble when the starters were revealed, and since I originally planned on going into this game as blind as possible, like with Gen 7, I easily would have picked this if it weren't for the whole Dexit situation before the games were released.
You see how Drizzile is giving the thumbs down in the official art? That's pretty appropriate.
And boy howdy am I glad I saw this before playing the games. I hate this thing. It's like when I first played through White, where I refused to evolve my Snivy because I hated Servine's design.
Its earlier forms might have bothered me, but I actually think they did a good job with Inteleon, a rare late bloomer starter where I don't see the potential until it fully evolves.
Inteleon is fine, I guess. I think through and through this is the worst batch of starters across all of the games.
Surprised it took us this long to get a squirrel Pokemon, Pachirisu notwithstanding, and, well, yeah, it's just a squirrel.
Squovit looks like a dork, and its 2 brain cells are in a competition for 3rd place.
Once again, it's just a squirrel, but I can at least appreciate Greedent for the less muted colors.
Hey Lois, I'm a Pokemon, Lois. Yeah.
Generic cute sphere bird, but the blue plumage is nice.
Rookidee is pretty good for a Route 1 bird, distinct in colors and not a normal type.
I really like ravens, and I wish that Corvisquire lived up to the animal it's based on. It's not bad by any means, but I don't gel with this one.
I think ditching the yellow was a mistake, but this is still a fine design.
This is clever and all, but I can't help but feel that they made Corviknight just to knock another type combination off their list. Like, ooh, now we have a flying steel Pokemon, haven't had that before. And I know we were about to comment about how I forgot Skarmory and Celesteela, by the way, but those are steel flying Pokemon. I know that doesn't make a practical difference, but stop undermining my points, goddammit.
While I do quite like Corviknight's design, it never clicked with me that the shoulder pads, is that the right term for them? Aren't connected to the main body at all, and it's annoyed me ever since noticing that.
This looks like a Paper Mario character. I'm not sure why, but Blipbug bothers me.
Blipbug has those cartoon opaque nerd glasses, and I am not about that.
Interesting how basically completely scrapping what you had and designing something completely new makes Dottler much better. But, you know, not that much better.
Not about this one, either.
Lost me a bit with this one. I don't think Orbeetle really did something inventive for its ladybug concept.
Orbeetle is fine, I guess. Unique for a Route 1 bug, I suppose.
It sure is a fox. Yes, sir.
I really quite like Nickit. Well, mostly at least. It's a bit too chibi, I suppose.
Arsène Vulpin.
Thievel's pretty cool. A bit on the nose, being a sly fox, but still cool.
I don't want to just write off Gossifleur as Baby Bill Awesome, but, I mean, it is just kind of Baby Bill Awesome.
This is kind of a nothing Pokemon to me. Another one where I just don't think about this Pokemon ever. Maybe it's a good choice in Pokedoku for Grass Gala or something, I don't know.
We've seen this kind of spherical, cotton-inspired Pokemon way too much by this point. It's time to think bigger.
Galarian Jumpluff.
Yes, Wooloo is absolutely adorable, but I mean, it's just a sheep. And I love sheep, but this is the 8th Pokemon generation and we're sticking way too close to one-to-one animal translations. Mareep was far more interesting.
Yeah, it's a sheep, and pretty much nothing more than that.
Fine, it's a ram now. You think you're gonna win points for that? Contrary to its name, this Pokemon does not get the dubs.
There's at least stuff going on here compared to Wooloo. Not interesting at all, but there's patterns in the fur. Wow.
Okay, I actually like Choodle quite a bit. This is the kind of design you'd see in Gen 3 or 4, but it also fits organically into a British-inspired setting.
Choodle reminds me of that one cat gif where it just opens its mouth and people sync it to singing.
A lot of the non-starters have been pretty mediocre so far, but Choodle, and especially Dreadnought, really ramped it up. Maybe my only complaint is that it's a bit too similar to the Blastoise line, but even that's not a major issue. I'd happily take Dreadnought on my team.
I know it's a rock type, but Dreadnought just looks too rigid. Like he wouldn't be able to walk comfortably or anything.
Come on, Yamper, you are making it really hard to be objective by being so gosh darn precious.
Corgis are cute, but this is leaning a bit too heavily into the cuteness factor for me.
I want it to be known that I struggled really hard to justify this rating, but you know what? Boltund deserves it. Best doggo.
I actually really like Boltund, and I'm glad they turned Yamper into a more hound design versus keeping it a small dog design, like with Fido into Doxbun.
Rock.
Thematically, this would be a phenomenal enemy in an N64 collectathon platformer for the volcano level. Other than that, totally fine.
Carkol gets a point above Roly-Coly simply because I find it funny.
Carkol is so stupid that I can't hate it. I don't like it, but I don't hate it.
No sympathy points for laughter now, but I don't hate the Colossal line. I just find it incredibly boring.
Oh, and here's the final boss of that volcano level from earlier. Colossal drops the key when you need to unlock the next world or whatever.
Alright, fine, you win. I guess I can't throw out the generic cute sphere attack anymore, considering an apple is probably the most generic sphere object you could get. And you know how I love too many Pokemon because they're based on animals I like? Well, I really like apples, so fuck off.
Aw man, there's a worm in my apple.
I actually like this one quite a bit. Flapple is admittedly pretty silly, but it's executed really well.
Okay, I know that the Applin line got some attention in the Gen 9 DLC, but I was a huge fan of at least Flapple since Gen 8. I know it's a stupid design, but this one is at least very funny.
Appletoon is not just an amazing design, but also probably the most unique one they've ever done. Who the hell would have put Apple Pie Dinosaur with a mop haircut on their Gen 8 bingo card?
Still kinda funny, but also goes away from what the rest of the line was going for. The only one with legs and the only one without a whole apple.
Looks more like a Sadie Cobra to me.
Despite the name implying, Silicobra is not, in fact, silly.
10 points for the snoot.
Despite the name no longer implying, Sandaconda is, in fact, silly.
Did you know that cormorants, the birds that Cramorants are based on, are also known as shags? That's a fun fact for the day. Anyway, Cramorant is hilarious, especially gorging form. Show this to someone who isn't familiar with modern Pokemon and see how they react.
If I had a nickel for every rival whose sole goal was improving in battle, add a Cramorant to their team for one battle before immediately removing it from their team, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Then, it's weirder that Hop brings it back once, only to then again be removed from the team in the next fight. And are we picking favorite forms? Gorging form is funny.
All of Aerokuda's points are purely because of that big derpy smile, because otherwise, this is just a fish.
Aerokuda smiles like the Grinch when he has the terrible, awful idea to steal Christmas.
Still kinda just a fish, but that smile is winning me over, I gotta say.
I think that this is just one of those designs that's cool, clean, nothing fancy, and kinda just works.
No, thank you.
Stupid, ugly, idiot baby with its stupid diaper and stupid bib.
quite an improvement over Toxel, although Toxtricity does remind me a bit of an extreme food mascot from the 2000s. This guy could advertise some 5 gum, believe me. I like low-key form the most because I like the blue flavor.
Toxtricity is pretty cool, though. It's close, but I prefer amped form. The yellow is a nice contrast to the purple, and fits better with the electric typing.
This little pancake dude does nothing for me, I'm afraid.
Not a terrible design, but pretty boring, and I'm not huge on it being so flat.
I'm not sure I care for the Flame Manchu, but otherwise, I think Centiscorch is pretty damn cool, even if it's a bit too Scolipede-ish for my liking.
A bit better, but has the same issues I have with Sizzlipede.
There are a lot of Pokemon in this generation that I have genuinely never seen before, and Clobbopus is the first one of those that has completely captivated me. I want to learn everything I can about Clobbopus now. It is a precious baby.
Another Pokemon I always forget about. At least it's not a boring water type? Credit where it's due, I guess.
Although it's not anywhere near as cute as Clobbopus, I still really like what they did with Grapploct, even if it is just kind of a Squidwardification of the previous Mon.
Grapploct is visually distinct, has personality, and is overall a pretty interesting design.
Beauty and the Beast would like a word with you, Pokemon Company. Not that there's a huge difference, but I prefer antique form because, well, you figure it out.
I just noticed that the arm sticking out and holding the rest of the handle is sticking its pinky finger out. True class right there. Do we need to discuss forms? I guess antique form due to the rarity.
Obviously, a T-based Pokemon line is clever for a British setting, and honestly, the pun is just too good to pass up. I do love that Polteaguy's Japanese name is Pot Def as well, and yeah, still prefer antique form.
A more unique shape than Sinistea, I at least love the name both in English and Japanese. Potadesu, or Pot Death. I still think I like antique form more.
Another generic cute sphere, but it has a big ol' judge's wig now. Very Kirby enemy-esque as well.
Hatena is just a little party hat blob. Not that interesting.
A clever trick, forsake being the cute sphere and instead wear the cute sphere on your head. Can't complain though, it works wonders.
Pretty cute, but I don't think it's amazing or anything.
Consider the following. Gen 6 introduced us to Sylveon, a trans icon Pokemon if ever there was one, and Gen 8 introduced us to Hatterene, who is literally a trans pride flag. That is pretty heckin' cool.
I don't really know what to say about Hatterene. I like it for sure, but I haven't anything else to say about it.
This little dweeb can fuck right off.
This thing is pretty ugly. The only thing I have to say about this Pokemon is that it was leaked months before the games came out, and never was officially revealed pre-release either.
Actually, I take it back. This is the one who can fuck right off.
Every single color on Morgrem is grape, and I don't like that, especially since there are 3 whole colors excluding the eyes and teeth.
Be the change you want to see in your Mon.
I originally was not a fan of Grimmsnarl, but it's grown on me quite a bit over the years. I think it's a design that looks so much better in its 3D model than the official artwork.
This is what happens when you feed your badger too many mushrooms. Also, Obstagoon is absolutely incredible.
Obstagoon is actually a really sick design. I don't know how well it fits for anything outside of Galar, but it's cool.
Can't say I woke up expecting to see a cat Viking today, but I'm not complaining.
This is just bigger Galarian Meowth, which, spoiler alert, I'm not the biggest fan of.
This is why we need to stop climate change, to prevent our coral reefs from turning into funny condoms. Anyway, Cursula is a pretty neat twist on the Corsola line.
Thematically, an amazing Pokemon. Executionally, also a pretty great Pokemon.
Sirfetch'd is great and all, but I can't help but wonder why we didn't get a Pokemon inspired by the Royal Guard. I just want to see a Pokemon with a big black fluffy hat. But anyway, Onion Knight Bird is a modern classic.
Kinda funny, I suppose? And yeah, it's got the sword and the shield. Whoa.
I do not have the Mr. Time for Mr. Rhyme.
What's with Gen 8 and giving Pokemon regional variants with new silly evolutions?
Do I need to give you a reason why I don't like Runerigus? I just don't like it at all, and I can't tell you why.
A very unique design, especially compared to Coffagrigus, and I think it works quite well.
Generic cute splash? Considering making a Pokemon that is just straight up cream is not all that interesting, let's just move on.
This is a Kirby enemy. Derogatory.
This is cute and all, but I'd be more inclined to give Alcremie a higher score if we didn't already have a far more interesting ice cream Pokemon line from Gen 5. As for my ideal flavor combination, I'm going with Ruby Cream and Strawberry Sweet, because strawberry ice cream is delicious.
Alcremie is pretty uninteresting design-wise, but at least has a neat gimmick for its forms. I think my favorite is Salted Cream Berry.
I don't care if it's for the memes, Phalanx is the absolute best thing ever. Do not insult my silly little guys.
The squad during the sleepover at 3 a.m.
How many not Kirby enemies are we gonna see this generation?
Pincurchin has all the negative hallmarks of a bad early gen Pokemon. Uninteresting design, bad stats, no evolutions, and relegated to a single late game area, all rolled into one.
How can a mortal man comment on what is obviously a god in Pokemon form? Snom you later, suckers.
Snom's fine, but I really don't understand everyone's apparent obsession with it, especially around the time the games came out.
Snom is obviously a tough act to follow considering that it is a perfect creature, but Frostmoth is pretty stunning and beautiful in its own right.
I don't know why, but I really love Frostmoth. It's just so elegant.
Fine architecture. It'll never last.
This is the stupidest Pokemon design in a long time, but I am all for it.
This is an instance where the silly little dude just doesn't win me over, I'm afraid. I think I prefer the Noise face form myself. And yeah, it's probably pronounced no ice, but it's spelled Noise, so I'm saying Noise.
90% of it is just a penguin, but I don't particularly care for the other 10%. I think I prefer Ice Face, since there's a bit of uniqueness to the design. It's not just a penguin.
Not much to say here. In DD is a simple yet effective design, and in DD, I really like it.
Mom says we have Meowstic at home.
Has Morpeko tried eating a Snickers? Hangry Mode has a far more interesting color scheme and face, so that's gonna be my favorite.
You're not you when you're hungry. Have a Snickers. Also, Morpeko was supposed to have a unique form change animation in Gen 8, but it just isn't enabled or something. This was fixed in Gen 9, where it either eats a snack or gets hungry before transforming. Anyway, I like Full Belly Mode the most because it's the requisite Pikachu clone.
This might be a Pokemon that I'd like more if it were introduced earlier in the series before 3D models became the norm, because while I don't hate the design, its model is pretty basic and blech.
It's kinda cute, I suppose. I like elephants, but this isn't really my thing.
I'd make a Varuta joke, but that would be more appropriate for the Gigantamax form, wouldn't it? Anyway, it's pretty good.
This is a Minecraft mod.
You know, you don't have to combine everything together.
I think the Gen 8 fossil Pokemon are genuinely some of the best ideas across the entire franchise. Maybe not the best executed, but very funny.
You seriously don't have to combine everything together.
Since all of the fossils this gen are designed like early paleontological reconstructions, many of which came from the UK, which is where the Galar region is based off of.
No, I mean it. Cut it out.
One of the most notable of these poor reconstructions is the Magdeburg unicorn from central Germany, being a fossil connecting the tail to the ribs to the shoulders to the singular neck vertebrae to the skull to a horn.
This one's okay, actually. Arctovish gets a pass. As a reminder, we wrote these scripts separately, so now that I've heard Dribson's points, I feel a bit sheepish about the concepts of these guys, but I will not change my score.
Anyway, I love these fossils because I am quite a dinosaur nerd, and always have been since I was a kid.
Duraludon looks like a stalagmite. Steelagmite.
Skyscrapers are pretty cool, but do you know it's even cooler than skyscrapers?
Weird body shape on this one, but Dreepy's not bad.
Not a bad design, but not a great name. Not a big fan of Dreepy.
Nothing screams caretaker Pokemon like a B2 stealth bomber.
You know how Mantine had a Remoraid in its design up until Gen 4? Why does Dracloak get to keep a Dreepy?
Ah, okay, I get it now. It might take a while to get there, but Dragapult is absolutely worth it.
Dragapult is fine, I guess. I actually think this is one of the least interesting pseudo-legendary designs.
I'm of the mind that the Gen 8 box legendaries are boring as heck, but Zacian isn't too bad. I like the Heroes of Many Battle forms myself because the Crown Sword variant is a bit too showy.
I really don't care for the legendaries this time around. Even the one I picked, Zacian for Sword in this case, isn't that interesting. I think I prefer Crown Sword, since it is just holding a sword like a dog would a stick.
My love of dogs and dog Pokemon won't let Zamazenta off the hook. I do not like this one. I guess I still prefer the Hero of Many Battles form for the same reasons.
Ugly dog. I think I prefer Hero of Many Battles, since the yellow of Crowned Shield clashes too much with the saturated red and blue of the body.
The Porygonification of Giratina.
This is the ugliest Pokemon ever designed. If I could give this a 0, I would.
I mean, we already made the Kung Fu Panda joke in the Gen 6 video, so I guess this is the little panda fighter? Except not really, because it's not a panda bear? Maybe?
Kung Fu is okay. I didn't bother with the DLC for these games, as you could tell from the lack of my footage, so I don't have a whole lot of strong opinions for the next few Pokemon.
Actually, Urshifu would make a great Kung Fu Panda villain. He's got that Tai Long swagger, you know? I like the single strike form myself.
The little panda fighter if it was good. I prefer Rapid Strike style. I'm not well versed in martial arts, but I think quick overwhelming hits is cooler than singular decisive blows.
In another timeline, this is the hidden Grookey evolution. I prefer the regular form because Dada Zarude's scarf doesn't fit.
Galarian Dr. Bad Boon. I like the Dada form since the pink scarf adds some nice contrast.
I appreciate that they tried to make new Regimons, but this one's kind of a miss.
I don't quite know how one would construct a golem out of electricity, but more power to whoever figured it out.
While this is much better, I don't think this is as classic a design as the original trio and even Regigigas. I might not have cared for some of those earlier designs, but while Regidrago is cool, it doesn't really fit in with the others.
Despite being called Regidrago, you appear to have a Charizard skull for arms, and base Charizard at that, not even Mega Charizard X. Curious.
Who the fuck froze my horse?
Cool horse.
Who the fuck hot topicked my horse?
Cooler horse.
I guess Calyrex isn't terrible, but I think it's an odd mishmash of elements that don't work as a whole. Also, this thing is shaped like the Nylymph, and I can't unsee that. I like Shadow Rider Calyrex myself because at least Spectrier means it looks a little cooler.
An ugly Pokemon that is only saved by its mounts, I would commit Regicide on Calyrex. I prefer Shadow Rider Calyrex since Spectrier is cooler.
Am I crazy, or did we already have a Cheshire Cat Pokemon in a previous generation? I'm not gonna look that up myself, but this is certainly that. Also, considering the steel typing, is the idea supposed to be that this is steel wool? Are we supposed to scrub our pots and pans with Galarian Meowth?
Uglier Meowth. At least Alolan Meowth still looked similar enough to its Cantonian form to still really be called a regional variant. This seems more akin to the convergent form seen in Gen 9, Toadschool, Wiglet, etc.
This might be a pretty basic redesign, but Galarian Ponyta is cute at least.
Galarian Ponyta needs to straighten out its hair.
Same notes as above, but hey, unicorn lovers are probably eating pretty well.
Much better. Not as great as the Kanto variant, but not bad nonetheless.
Bigger leak, bigger attitude, smaller score.
Definitely compensating for something with a significantly bigger leak.
See, the joke here is that British industry is responsible for so much of the pollution on the British Isles. Fair enough sentiment, but design-wise, it's clever, but just too ugly. Haha, charade you are.
Galarian Weezing is funnier, clever, and better than regular Weezing, which I think is a bit surprising given my track record thus far this generation.
This is genuinely such a big improvement that I feel like giving Galarian Mr. Mime a 6 is still too low. But I mean, it's not that great.
A tad bit better than before, and definitely not as creepy, though I don't think the design fits well with Mr. Rhyme.
See, the joke here is that British industry is responsible for so much of the pollution in the Great Barrier Reef. Wait, scratch that one.
Global warming is real, and it is killing the world's supply of Corsola. Johto needs our help to save the oceans.
I want one.
He's just a little goofball. Not as big a fan as the Hoenn version, but still really good.
Having lived most of my life in an area without any badgers, I'm just not used to them, so I can't help but look at this and think, skunk Linoon. Anyway, still awesome.
I think the black and white fits the straight stripes better than the zigzag pattern compared to Zigzagoon, but still wasn't any better than Hoenn.
This is just Darumaka with the invert color filter applied.
Still not a bad design, but still extremely simple.
I mean, at least Galarian Darmanitan, and try saying that 5 times fast, is different, even if he's far more of a goober. I suppose I prefer the Zen form because funny face.
But what if it had a big ol' head of hair? I prefer Zen mode for Galarian Darmanitan, since the snowman is very funny when it hops around in battle.
It's flexing the rock in its dick, yo.
They made it purple and gave it a tail instead of a face, but I still don't vibe with the teardrop thing.
Oh, I get it.
Somehow funnier than Stunfisk, despite the name not making as much sense anymore. Unless by the stun in Stunfisk, we mean going into shock, fainting due to blood loss, and slowly dying on the ground.
What if Slowpoke, but covered in mustard?
Flat, lazy, sleepy. There is not a single thought behind those eyes.
This is the most hilarious fictional toxic relationship I have seen in a while.
Marvel's What If? The Shelder bit Slowbro's hand instead of its tail.
In the time since we released the Gen 1 video 2 years ago, and yeah, time does fly like that, I've since come around to liking the legendary birds more, but damn, Galarian Articuno really gives the original a run for its money.
Articuno, you have to stop. You smoke too tough. Your swag too different. Your bitch is too bad. They'll kill you.
I still don't like the original Zapdos all that much, but I really love Galarian Zapdos. I think leaning into the chicken design with the same spiky features and plumage was a good choice. And the red colors are awesome.
This one just feels a bit too different from Cantonian Zapdos compared to the other two birds. I don't dislike it, but I don't really love it either.
Galarian Moltres is beautiful, with an awesome wing and feather design and getting just far enough away from Cantonian Moltres while retaining the same basic concept. Genuinely would love to interact with this Pokemon, even if I'd probably die.
The cooler Moltres.
How did his eyes get so dead? And what the hell is on Slowking's head?
Still not as charming as Slowbro, but once again, not by much. It's a bit more distinct with the color difference of the Shellder, which is nice.
I mean, it's just kind of big Charizard, but with some little gem patterns on its belly, which is cool, I guess?
I have similar thoughts to this as I do Mega Charizard Y. It's just more Charizard trying a bit too hard to be cool, which I don't think is a great thing.
Biblically accurate Butterfree. Seriously though, this is incredible.
Actually a pretty nice improvement over base Butterfree. I really like the colors here.
Fat Pikachu has returned, and he's gained balls.
They brought back Fat Pikachu, finally.
Tube Cat.
While the Long Cat meme is kinda funny here, I'm not the biggest fan of this just being tall Meowth.
I'm not sure what the hell happened here, but I don't care for it.
He traded his underwear for some new pants. Cool, I guess.
I already made a Cave of Wonders joke last time, so I'm not gonna do it again. Anyway, I guess Gigantamax Gengar makes sense, but it's still just kinda alright.
What is with giving Gengar generational gimmick forms that remove its legs and bring it down to the ground?
Damn, what the hell happened to Kingler? I guess it's more crabbish, but I don't know, I find it weird.
Santa Claus.
I love Lapras, but Gigantamax Lapras loses a lot of that simple magic for me.
Another really pretty G-Max form. Not really an improvement over Lapras, but it's nice that they kept it simple with this one.
What if Eevee, but floofier? A lot of Gigantamax forms are just take a great Pokemon and make it big without changing too much, and that doesn't win many points with me.
It's just more Eevee, but this time I can't really hate it.
What if Snorlax, but Torterra? Also that one episode of Futurama where Bender becomes a god.
Man, Galarian Torterra looks kinda weird, doesn't it?
See, the joke here is that British industry is responsible for... well, you get the idea.
I'm not a Garbodor hater, but I do dislike this.
What if Melmetal, but smooth?
This is ugly and hands down one of my least favorite designs in Pokemon. The move named Double Iron Bash can't give it any pity points this time.
Oh, that's why they made Corviknight, to make this awesome thing.
It's mainly just bigger Corviknight, but considering some of the other G-Max forms are much more different than the base form, it's a tad bit disappointing.
I might have found Orbeetle uninteresting, but Gigantamax Orbeetle is at least unique. I don't think it succeeded all that much though.
The UFO design is a bit funnier, but still not the biggest fan of this Pokemon.
Okay, now it's too similar to Blastoise.
Now they turned into Blastoise, and it still looks too rigid to walk.
What if Colossal, but now it's dripping mole sauce?
And this is the super boss hidden in the volcano level once you beat the game.
Apple burning jeans, dragon going brrr.
This doesn't really fit either Flapple or Appleton's designs, so while I probably would have gone straight down the middle of their scores, I'm not a huge fan of this design. Though I suppose it looks a fair bit like Dipplin from the Gen 9 DLC.
Ugh, I don't like what they did with Gigantamax Sandaconda. This is just too silly for me.
I couldn't tell you why, but I think this is an improvement over base Sandaconda. Not the greatest, but I do sorta like the snake tornado going on here.
I actually kind of prefer the standing look of normal Toxtricity. Gigantamax Toxtricity seems too animalistic? I guess what I'm trying to say is 4 legs good, 2 legs better.
There's probably a lot of cool ideas that could be done for G-Max Toxtricity, but I don't think this is one of them.
Okay, I like Centiskorch, but seriously, this is too much Centiskorch.
It's cool that they gave the Centipede 100 legs for the G-Max form. Go ahead and count them. I can wait.
This Transflag is going to war.
They changed the hair hand thing, you know, one of the unique features of Hatterene's design, and replaced it with some generic tentacles.
This just looks like a generic villain monster. Pass.
Why is G-Max Grimmsnarl posing like he's a JoJo character?
Thank you so much for playing my game.
I like that they added all of the decorations used to evolve Milcery into the G-Max form of Alchemy, so they didn't have to create 49 different G-Max models.
Hey, it's Varuta. Anyway, goofiness aside, Gigantamax Copperajah is awesome. Also kinda gives me Mega Man X Maverick vibes. Blade Elephant?
This is also one of the ugliest designs in all of Pokemon. It took me until recording this footage to realize that Copperajah is standing vertically, and its forelegs are now stubby little hands.
This is what happens when you let modern architects go crazy. And it's actually kind of badass.
Not a great design to end off the base game GMAX forms. And no, I'm not finishing the skyscraper joke here. Stay tuned for the Gen 9 follow-up video.
Can I take back what I said about regular Venusaur? Because this is kinda worse.
If I had a nickel for every fire-type starter to get a generational gimmick without the other two in the trio getting the same gimmick until the next paid portion of the series, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
The battleship design is incredibly inspired, and it makes me look down on the Dreadnought line even more. Not to mention, Dreadnought is the perfect name for this design.
Not really my thing, again with the trying to be too cool. This feels like Mega Blastoise 1.5.
Yep, that's Rillaboom fully realized, and it's awesome.
It's fine, but a bit overkill for my tastes.
Okay, the actual Gigantamax Cinderace design is radical, but the Flame Ball is way, way too big. Considering that's 80% of the design, it does diminish this quite a bit.
This isn't really any different than base Cinderace, just with a giant ball.
Sniping's a good job, mate. I kinda hated this design when I first saw it, but it's actually grown on me quite a bit.
Again, fine, but I'm also not really a fan of the Sniper Tower tail thing.
Now it's a Kung Fu Panda villain with the power of the Chaos Emeralds. I like both of the forms this time, but Single Strike is still my favorite.
They're just the same, but white instead of black. I think I prefer Rapid Strike, but this time since I think the white and blue work together with the pose.
Maybe I cooled on Stantler a bit, but even though I think Weirdeer is even better, it's still not great.
A pretty nice improvement over Stantler. It looks old and wise now.
I'm not really a fan of the design, but I like that Cleavor took the Scyther line in a far different direction. Was it for gameplay reasons in Legends Arceus? Sure, but it makes this more interesting.
While this is an interesting take for a rock-type evolution of Scyther, I don't think it works the best. Still pretty cool though.
Ursaluna's not a bad evolution of Ursaring, but I really don't like the plates on its back. I think I prefer the base form, but the Blood Moon form isn't bad either.
While I'm not the biggest fan of regular Ursaluna, I absolutely love Blood Moon Ursaluna, and it is my favorite form.
It's a longer fish, but don't touch or you still get an ouchie.
Basculegion is pretty awesome, and a very worthy evolution to Basculin, which was desperately needed.
It's really weird talking about Sneasler before Hisuian Sneasel, and spoiler alert, I vastly prefer the younger version this time.
I used to hate this design, but now I only mildly dislike it.
Yeah, it is a bit overquill, isn't it? Love how tiny the face is compared to the body, but otherwise, this one's just alright.
This is a pretty goofy looking evolution for Hisuian Quillfish, but it's kinda charming in its own way.
Oh, we're going back to the forces of nature, huh? Well, I guess an Amoris isn't bad, and I think I prefer Therian form.
Something about these designs just feel off when compared to the other forces of nature from Unova. I think I prefer Incarnate form over Therian, since the turtle just looks strange.
You're not gonna get me to say no to this cutie patootie. Seriously, how could you hate that silly little face?
Hisuian Growlithe is still super cute, and it was also the first shiny Pokemon I caught in Legends Arceus.
This might shock you, but I actually think Hisuian Arcanine is a huge miss. The gray fur does not work for me. Still okay though.
In a completely separate way than the Cantonian form, Hisuian Arcanine is extremely majestic. While I prefer the orange of Kanto, the red and gray here work fantastic together.
What if Voltorb, but made of wood?
Okay, I think I've lightened up on my opinion of Voltorb. At least it looks happy in Hisui.
What if Electrode, but made of angry wood?
Electrode, however, a bit less so. And now he's angry.
All the way back in the Gen 2 video, I said that Hisuian Typhlosion spoiled the original version for me a bit, and I stand by that. This creature is awesome. Fire Ghost Pokemon just seem to resonate with me, you know?
I don't think the official artwork does Typhlosion justice here, but this design is immaculate. Maybe it has to do with the, flames being permanent in the 3D model, unlike Jotonian Typhlosion.
What if Quillfish, but darker and the number 9?
It's a simple color change mostly, but it still works.
I actually think Hisuian Sneasel is a very nice improvement over the original form, and it's a shame that Sneasler kinda ruins it.
I'm not huge on the colors, but they're not terrible. It's an interesting take on Sneasel, to be honest.
Dang, Hisuian Samurott is awesome. I'd view this on par with the normal Samurott design, but, darker.
Once again, an amazing regional form for a starter in this game.
What if Lilligant, but legs?
While I do like what they were going for with Lilligant, I don't think it's as great as the Unovan design.
Aww, now Zorora is precious.
It's cute, but I don't like it quite as much as the black of the Unova form.
Aw, now Zoroark is awesome!
It's a very bold design, but I do think it works for a Pokemon like Zoroark.
It isn't that different from normal Braviary, but every change unfortunately makes it worse.
This bird is not American and has no George Washington or apple pie or baseball or guns or freedom.
This is my private domicile and I will not be harassed.
I don't know if the snail shell makes this better or worse, so I'm keeping it the same.
What if Goodra, but back issues?
Okay, I think here the snail shell makes it worse, but not by much. It's a shame it still isn't a poison type, though. That would really fit it here.
This is pretty much the same as normal Avalugg, but the blade beard on HISUIAN Avalugg looks pretty stupid.
The simplicity of Avalugg's design is lost here, unfortunately.
The fall coat isn't that bad, I suppose, but I don't think HISUIAN Decidueye is a spectacular redesign, but that might be because the original is so damn cool.
The only HISUIAN starter that I think is worse than its base form. An interesting take, and while I appreciate the autumn colors here, I'm not sure if they work for Decidueye.
And that's every Gen 8 Pokemon rated. Let's turn it over to Dribson for the breakdown.
Thanks, Cloud. First, let's look at our running total of average scores. Cloud's average score for Gen 8 is 6.38, currently occupying the middle slot, but that's likely to change when we revisit Gen 9. His average for the Sword and Shield Pokemon is 6.32, while for Legends Arceus it's 6.74. By contrast, my average score for Gen 8 was 5.85, making this, currently, my lowest rated generation to date. My average for Sword and Shield is 5.65, while my average for Legends Arceus is 7.04, so no free guesses on which game I prefer. Of all 162 Pokemon we rated for this video, we gave 28 of them the same rating, mostly on Pokemon that we favored or at least thought were okay. Next, let's look at our total score count for Gen 8, which has some interesting trends. Both Cloud and I tended to hover around the middle, giving out lots of 6s, 7s, and 8s, but Cloud boosted his average score quite a bit with a nice dose of 9s and 10s. I wasn't nearly as generous, which should explain why my average was comparatively lower even though we both handed out fairly similar numbers of low ratings.
Thanks, Dribson, and now it's time to honor the top of the line, bottom of the line, and so average that they might as well be a line Pokemon from this generation. First, we've got the awards for best and worst starter lines based on the combined score of each Pokemon in the evolution chain. The Perfect Partner Award goes to the Cinderace line. Big shock that the Fire starter took this award, because they tend to do that. And the Atrocious Ally Award goes to the Inteleon line. And wouldn't you know it, it's the middle starter that tanked this one, although we were split on both Sobble and Inteleon, so there are no blameless ones here.
Next, we've got the awards for best and worst legendary and mythical Pokemon. As a note, because Gigantamax forms are a battle-exclusive form change, Gigantamax legendary and mythical Pokemon don't count, but Galarian ones do. We're clarifying that because the Mythical Masterpiece Award goes to Galarian Moltres, a significant improvement over its original classic form. If you're curious, Spectre is the best new legendary Pokemon, but funnily enough, it shares second place with Galarian Articuno and Zapdos. So the takeaway here is that the legendary birds got some serious upgrades. And the Fantastical Flop Award goes to Zamazenta, the second time a box legendary takes this award since Ho-Oh back in Gen 2. It's just a very boring design, and not one Cloud or I particularly cared for.
Now let's do the awards for best and worst type based on the average score of every Pokemon in that type group. Our excellent element this time is Flying, a second time winner that's had some good performance in recent generations, so it's nice to see it take the spotlight again. And our Catastrophic Category Award goes to Steel, which has never been an outstanding type in our ratings, although it should be said, out of a possible 20 average points, Steel's total score in Gen 8 was above 10, though just barely.
Moving on to the awards for best and worst glow-up, done by finding the highest positive and negative score changes from one evolution to the next. For this award, we're counting both new evolution lines and new Pokemon and established evolution lines. And that applies to Galarian and Hisuian Pokemon as well, although not to Gigantamax forms. Our Terrific Transformation Award goes to Toxtricity, improving on Toxel by 11 points, one of the highest point margins for improvement we've seen to date. Shoutouts to Galarian Mr. Mime, who, while certainly not an outstanding Pokemon by any means, still improved as an evolution of Mime Jr. by a factor of 10. And the Metamorphic Mistake Award goes to Drizzile, because of course a middle starter Pokemon took this spot again.
Then there's the award for the Pokemon that Dribson and I disagreed on the most, and our Contentious Critter Award this time goes to Gigantamax Copperajah, whom I loved with a score of 9, but Dribson absolutely hated with a score of 1. Wanna know what's up with that? Ask him, I am washing my hands of this one.
And now there's the awards for the best and worst antagonists, which includes rivals, gym leaders, Elite Four trainers, champions, and villain team leaders based on the average score of their teams. Same rules as always, We're not counting duplicate Pokemon, only final encounters are judged where applicable, trainers must have at least one new Pokemon, super bosses only count if they're fought in the post-game, and no battle facility exclusive trainers. We'll also be splitting the awards for both Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus because, hey, more awards means more fun. For Sword and Shield, the Big Bad Boss Award goes to Gym Leader B, thanks to her great selection of past fighting Pokemon and solid newcomers. And we have a very rare 3-way tie for the Bad Boss Award, although technically only 2 trainers take the award. First, Gym Leader Gordy gets this award because, like in many generations, the Rock type doesn't do so good. But this award also goes to Hop if A, you're playing Sword, and B, he has either Rillaboom or Inteleon on his team. Thanks to Zamazenta and the lesser starter Pokemon weighing him down, Hop wins this unillustrious award twice with 2 poor teams. All of his other variants aren't much better, but Cinderace and Zacian save them from the same fate. For Legends Arceus, the Big Bad Boss Award goes to Diamond Clan leader Adaman, because having 3 great evolutions on your team is guaranteed to get you points. For this reason, Irida took 2nd place, by the way. And the Bad Boss Award goes to Ingo. We didn't consider his team in Gen 5 because he was a Battle Tower trainer, and unfortunately, not only did he lose his brother, but he lost in this generation thanks to some very poor Gen 4 selections.
We've got plenty of unique awards to hand out for Gen 8, starting with the award for Best and Worst Galarian forms. As a clarification, this doesn't include new Pokemon evolving from Galarian forms, so for example, Sirfetch'd, Cursula, and Mr. Rime don't count for this award. Our glorious Galarian award winners are Zigzagoon and Moltres, who mostly changed in the color scheme, but that was enough for them to make a great impression. And our god-awful Galarian award has 4 winners, Darmanitan, Yamask, Meowth, and Farfetch'd. Not that these new forms were terrible overall, but they had quite a bit of good competition.
We're also giving 2 awards for the Best and Worst Gigantamax forms, and for the Genuine Gigantamax Award, we're giving it to Butterfree and Pikachu, the former for being beautiful and the latter for being a big boy. And the Ghastly Gigantamax Award goes to Melmetal. Hard to imagine how the original Melmetal could get much worse, but this Starman-looking asshole just doesn't cut it.
Finally, let's give the awards for the Best and Worst Hisuian Pokemon. We did count the Hisuian exclusive evolutions like Sneasler and Ursaluna for this award because there aren't that many Hisuian forms, but spoiler alert, none of them won, so it didn't really matter. Anyway, the Honorable Hisuian Award goes to Typhlosion, already a fantastic Pokemon in its Jotonian form that's even better with its ghostly changes. And the Horrible Hisuian Award goes to Avalugg, who wasn't that great to start with, but lost us with the weird plating and the snowplow beard.
And let's wrap it up with the Special Honor Awards for the Absolute Best, Absolute Worst, and Absolute Bleh Pokemon. The Hall of Fame hosts Pokemon with a perfect combined score of 20, and Hisuian Typhlosion is our sole honoree this time. The Hall of Shame hosts Pokemon with a pseudo-perfect combined score of 2, and Gigantamax Melmetal enters this less than coveted position. And the Hall of Tame hosts Pokemon who got a score of 5 from both of us, and we've got 6 Pocket Monsters earning this slot today. Thwackey, Roly-Coly, Cufant, Zacian, Gigantamax Orbeetle, and Hisuian Sliggoo.
Well, that's every Gen 8 Pokemon rated, and as a quick recap, here's all the ratings we gave out this time. This was a pretty interesting generation for me to look at, especially considering how little I know of Sword and Shield. All the discourse around those games at its release put a huge sour taste in my mouth, and in the years since, I haven't exactly wanted to visit these games and see if I was missing anything. But Legends Arceus was a different story, as it was the first Pokemon game since Gen 4 that actually tempted me to give it a shot, and I'm glad I did. While I still don't have any reason to go back to Sword and Shield, when it comes to the actual Pokemon, I think they did a solid job. A lot of the best ones this time came from redesigns of previous creatures, but even some of the new designs wowed me over. It's good to know that even 20 years after the first games, the designers still had some tricks up their sleeve.
I have pretty mixed feelings about Gen 8. On one hand, Sword and Shield are probably the worst games in the franchise, with maybe Gold and Silver being down there in contention, not Crystal or the remakes. I don't care for a lot of the Pokemon, the story is weak, almost all of the characters aren't interesting, easily the worst villain in the franchise, poor graphics relative for the system, least interesting battle gimmick, etc. On the other hand, Legends Arceus is easily one of the best games in the series, easily the best mainline game on the Switch, and probably the best mainline 3D Pokemon game. It was different enough to be a breath of fresh air, while still remaining true to what Pokemon is at its core, an RPG. If you missed out on or skipped Legends Arceus, I urge you to pick it up, even if you're not the biggest Pokemon fan.
Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like this video, give it a like and leave a comment and subscribe and all that. And if you didn't like this video, then dislike it, I don't care. As I teased earlier, we'll be redoing our Gen 9 video with the DLC Pokemon, and we'll also be doing a big postscript on this whole rating series, so stay tuned for that, it should be out real soon. For now, this is Cloud Connection and Dribson signing off. Catch you later!